You will hear a number of different recordings, and you have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 1 minute to check your answer. Now turn to part 1.
Paulina, how was your internship? I remember you were really excited about it when you started.
Oh, hi, Roger. Yes, it was amazing. Thanks for asking. I honestly can't believe it's already over. It feels like I just started, but actually, I was there for 3 months.
3 months? That's a pretty long time, so what exactly did you do there?
Well, I worked at the Central Museum, mainly in the archives department. My tasks varied quite a lot. Some days I had to do routine work like cataloguing photographs and organising documents. But on other days, I got involved in more exciting projects. For example, I helped with research for a big exhibition on the history of the bicycle. That was my favourite part. I found it really fascinating to see how bicycles have evolved over time.
That sounds interesting. So do you think you'd like to work in a museum full-time once you finish your degree?
I'm not sure. I've always loved museums, and this experience made me appreciate them even more. But I think, in the long run, I'd prefer to work at a university. I've realised that I really enjoy explaining things to people and sharing knowledge, so teaching seems like a better fit for me.
That makes sense. Teaching can be really rewarding. What about right now, though? What have you been doing since your internship ended?
Well, I didn't want to sit around doing nothing, so I decided to do some volunteer work at the local hospital. I've been working there as a visitor.
Oh, really? What does that involve?
Basically, I visit patients who don't have family nearby, just to keep them company and have a chat. Some people are in the hospital for weeks or even months, so they really appreciate having someone to talk to.
That's really thoughtful of you. Do you enjoy it?
Yes, I do. But it can be emotionally challenging at times. Some of the patients are seriously ill, and it's not always easy to know what to say to them. But at the same time, I've met some incredible people, and I've learned a lot from them. It's definitely been a meaningful experience.
That sounds really rewarding, but also quite tough. Do you think you'd ever want to work in a hospital permanently?
I don't think so. I really admire the doctors and nurses who do that every day, but I don't think I could handle it as a career. I'd rather work in education, like I mentioned before.
Yeah, I get that. So what are your plans for the summer?
Well, I've just started a part-time job at a supermarket. It's nothing too exciting, but I want to save up some money because I have big plans for September.
Oh yeah? What are you doing?
I'm moving to England. I'll be doing a master's degree in history at the University of London. It's a 1-year program, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Wow, that's amazing. London is such a great city. Have you been there before?
Yes, I visited a couple of years ago, but only for a short holiday. This time, it'll be completely different, actually living there and studying. I'm both excited and a little nervous.
I'm sure you'll love it. It's a great place for history students with all the museums, libraries, and historic sites.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons I chose it. And what about you? Do you have any exciting summer plans?
Yeah, actually I do. I'm going to spend the summer traveling around Europe. I've always wanted to visit Italy, Spain, Germany, and Austria, so I finally decided to go for it.
That sounds incredible. Are you travelling alone or with friends?
I'll be going with a couple of friends from university. We're planning to stay in hostels and maybe try some couch surfing to keep costs down.
That sounds like a great adventure. How long will you be away?
About 6 weeks. We're trying to visit as many places as possible, but we also don't want to rush through everything.
That's a good plan. You'll have time to really experience each place.
Yeah, that's the idea. Anyway, I should probably get going. I need to do some last-minute shopping before my trip.
Of course. Well, good luck with your travels. I hope you have an amazing time.
Thanks, Paulina, and best of luck with your master's degree. I'm sure you'll do great.
Thanks. Keep in touch.
You too. See ya.
Part 2. You will hear the speaker discusses the history of the potato, its impact on Europe, and its significance as a staple food and source of resistance to disease. Africa. First, you'll have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
One of the most significant crops cultivated in what is now the United States is the potato. This vegetable originated in the Andes Mountains of South America, where it was grown as early as 5,000 years ago. The indigenous people of the Andes, including the Incas, relied heavily on potatoes because they were easier to cultivate, provided higher yields, and thrived in diverse climates. Unlike cereals, potatoes offered a more dependable food source with better nutrition. The Spanish encountered potatoes in the 16th century during their conquest of the Andes. Recognizing their value, they introduced the crop to Europe, where it was initially used as food for sailors. Potatoes quickly gained popularity in Spain and spread across Europe, first as a garden crop and then as a staple food. By the 18th century, they had become essential in many European countries, particularly in Ireland, Germany, Poland, and Russia. Potatoes played a crucial role in sustaining populations during wars and famines, but over-reliance on them led to agricultural disasters, such as the Irish potato famine in the mid-19th century. In the early 18th century, the potato arrived in North America, brought by Irish immigrants to New England. By the time of the American Revolution, it was widely cultivated. In 1812, potatoes were planted in Idaho, where the rich volcanic soil and cool climate made it an ideal crop. Today, Idaho is known as the potato capital of the world, producing a significant portion of the US supply. Across the country, potatoes are the leading vegetable crop with an annual yield of 42 billion pounds. The average American consumes about 140 pounds of potatoes per year, including fresh, frozen, and processed products like chips and fries. Potatoes are among the most versatile foods. They can be baked, boiled, fried, mashed, or roasted, and they are widely used in soups, stews, and casseroles. Additionally, they serve as the base for processed foods such as potato chips, French fries, and instant mashed potatoes. Beyond versatility, potatoes are highly nutritious. They are a great source of vitamin C, potassium, fiber, and iron, while being naturally low in calories and fat. Despite misconceptions, potatoes can be part of a healthy diet when prepared without excessive fats or oils.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you'll have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
Botanically, the potato belongs to the nightshade family, which includes tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. The potato plant produces small, white or purple flowers and inedible green fruit. The edible part is the underground stem, or tuber, which grows from the roots. Potatoes are cultivated using seed potatoes, small tuber pieces that sprout into new plants. As the plant matures, tubers form underground and are later harvested. The process requires well-drained, nutrient-rich soil and moderate rainfall or irrigation. As a cool season crop, potatoes are grown in many regions worldwide. They are usually planted in spring and harvested in autumn. In the United States, the leading potato-producing states are Idaho, Washington, and Wisconsin, though nearly every state grows some potatoes. Internationally, China, India, Russia, and Ukraine are the largest producers, contributing significantly to global food security. Beyond being a dietary staple, potatoes are a vital economic crop, supporting millions of farmers and food industry workers worldwide. The potato processing industry, which includes frozen products and snack foods, generates billions of dollars annually. Researchers continue to develop disease-resistant varieties and sustainable farming methods to protect yields from environmental threats. The potato's journey from the Andes to becoming a global staple highlights its agricultural and cultural significance. Whether consumed fresh or as processed foods, it remains a crucial component of diets worldwide. Despite changing food trends, the potato continues to be celebrated for its adaptability, nutrition, and economic importance. In conclusion, the potato is much more than a common vegetable. It is a key crop that has shaped history, economies, and diets for centuries. Its ability to thrive in various climates, provide essential nutrients, and support global agriculture makes it indispensable. Whether baked, boiled, fried, or mashed, the potato remains a beloved and essential part of meals worldwide.
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 2. Now turn to part 3. Part 3. You will hear two students, Jack and Emma, discussing their field trip to observe wild dolphins. First, you'll have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hey Emma, how was your field excursion?
It was fantastic, Jack. I'm really glad we made the decision to go.
Remind me, where was it again?
We went to the coastline to observe wild dolphins in their natural setting.
That sounds incredible. So what exactly did you do while you were there?
We spent a couple of days monitoring their movements and recording some footage. I actually have a video of them. Would you like to watch it?
Absolutely, that would be amazing.
I'll show you tomorrow. Right now, I need to go over my notes. I have a tutorial coming up and I want to be well prepared.
What are you going to cover in the session?
I'll be discussing the objectives of our trip. We had two primary goals.
Oh, what were they?
The first was to analyse the natural behaviours of dolphins. We all hear about how intelligent they are and how they communicate, but we wanted to witness it firsthand.
Right, and the second goal?
It was to observe the dolphins within their ecosystem and examine how they interact with their surroundings.
So what did you discover?
Quite a lot. One of the most interesting things was their feeding habits.
Oh really, what do they eat?
They primarily consume a species of fish called mullet. They work together, driving the fish into shallower waters where they're easier to catch. They repeat this strategy until they've had their fill.
That's clever. What about when they're not looking for food?
They spend a significant amount of time engaging in playful activities. They play among themselves, but they also interact with objects. They frequently pick up pieces of seaweed, toss them in the water, and catch them again. It almost seems like a game.
That's fascinating. Did they play with you as well?
Yes. When we were on the boat, they approached us and swam alongside us. They appeared quite curious about our presence.
Did you get to touch them?
No, we were specifically instructed not to. Since they're wild creatures, touching them could be risky. They might even bite. But they swam close enough for us to see them in detail.
Interesting. Did you notice anything else about their interactions?
Yes, we observed how they communicate. They produce various sounds and use physical gestures, like movements of their heads and tails to express themselves.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you'll have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
That's really intriguing. What about their interactions with other species?
Wow, we noticed that some seabirds were feeding on the same fish as the dolphins. The dolphins didn't seem bothered by them. They simply continued hunting as usual.
Did you encounter any other marine creatures?
Yes, we spotted some sea turtles and even a shark. Surprisingly, the dolphins weren't afraid of it at all. They swam around as if it wasn't even there.
Wow, that's unexpected.
Yes, it was. And we also observed their interactions with people. They seemed genuinely intrigued by humans. They approach boats, circling them as if they're trying to figure out what we're doing.
That's fascinating. So, for your tutorial, what aspects are you focusing on?
Well, I'll be analysing dolphin behaviour, how they communicate, socialise, and even play. I'm also looking at how environmental factors influence them, like water temperature and pollution.
That sounds really insightful. Are you also covering their natural habitat?
Not exactly. I'm more focused on how the surroundings impact them, rather than just describing where they live.
I see. And what about their interactions with other species?
That was definitely interesting to observe, but my tutorial won't go into that in depth.
What about their hunting strategies? I remember you mentioned they work together to catch fish.
Yes, that was fascinating, but I won't be discussing it in this presentation.
Got it. Well, I'd love to hear more about it later.
Of course, but I need to go now. I've got a seminar in 10 minutes.
All right, see you tomorrow.
That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3. Now, move to part 4. Part 4. You will hear a lecture about the history and innovations of the electric guitar. First, you'll have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. So, continuing on from last week's look at developments in contemporary music, I'm going to talk to you today about the electric guitar. The electric guitar is a very important instrument in popular music and one of the major innovations in instrument design in the 20th century. The first commercially viable electric guitar was developed in 1931 by George Beauchamp. He was working at the time for a company that produced acoustic guitars, and his invention came out of his desire to increase the volume of the guitar so it could compete with other instruments in jazz bands and dance orchestras. Beauchamp had seen the development of early record players and microphones in the 1920s, so he knew it was possible to convert sound into an electrical signal. He designed a guitar with a sensor to pick up the vibrations of the strings, and this sensor was connected to an amplifier and a speaker. The guitar he developed with this system was called the Rickenbacker frying pan. It was a steel guitar with a small round body and a long neck, and it was played on the performer's lap. The instrument was designed to be played in Hawaiian music, which was very popular at the time. It was called the frying pan because of its shape. It was very basic, but it was the first commercially successful electric guitar. Over the next few years, many companies, including the one Beauchamp worked for, developed and improved the design of electric guitars. In 1944, the Gibson Guitar Corporation released the ES-150 model, which was popular with guitarists in jazz music. This was a hollow body guitar, which meant it was shaped like an acoustic guitar, but had electronic components. It was the type of guitar played by Charlie Christian, who was one of the first musicians to make the guitar a solo instrument in jazz music. The next major development in the history of the electric guitar came in 1950, when Leo Fender released the Fender Broadcaster. This was the first mass-produced solid-body electric guitar. It was a simple, practical design, and it could produce a bright, clean sound. It was used by many guitarists in the 1950s and 1960s, including Muddy Waters, who was one of the pioneers of electric blues music. In 1952, the Gibson Guitar Corporation released the Les Paul model, which became one of the most popular electric guitars in the world. This was also a solid body guitar, and it was designed in collaboration with Les Paul, who was a famous guitarist and inventor. Les Paul was one of the first musicians to experiment with multi-track recording, and he used the guitar to create many innovative recordings. The 1960s and 1970s saw a huge growth in the popularity of the electric guitar, and many new models were released. The Fender Stratocaster, which was introduced in 1954, became one of the most popular guitars of all time. It was played by many famous guitarists, including Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, and David Gilmour. The Stratocaster had a distinctive double cutaway body shape, and it was known for its bright, clean sound. In the 1980s and 1990s, there was a trend towards more complex guitar designs, with more electronic components and more elaborate shapes. However, in recent years, there has been a return to simpler designs, with many guitarists preferring the classic designs of the 1950s and 1960s. So that's a brief overview of the history of the electric guitar. It's been a fascinating journey, and the instrument has had a huge impact on the development of music in the 20th and 21st centuries.
That is the end of part 4. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 4. That is the end of the listening test.